Hey guys, Cuyler Calahan here, copywriter and marketing consultant, and I'm your host of the Actual Marketing Show. So welcome to the show where I talk to business leaders about their marketing strategies and what actually works for them. Entrepreneurs are bombarded daily with the latest marketing tactics, and when they try one out, they're often met with failure. So I thought, why not go to the source? Why not talk to actual hardworking business leaders in the trenches and battling out daily to find out what works for them and what doesn't. So let's get to it. Today I have Anita Toth on the show. She's an entrepreneur and she's started 4 businesses in 5 years. According to her, 3 are failures, and now she's on her 4th. But that is quite the achievement. She is the chief churn consultant, helping SaaS companies reduce customer churn. And so we're going to talk to her more about that today and how she goes about finding clients for her business. So Anita, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Cuyler. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Not quite sure if, saying that I've had 4 businesses and 3 of them, 2 of them were failures. 1 I closed and the current one I have. So, it's all good. The whole point is most people would not say that their crowning achievement is to have failed businesses, but how I see it is that it's brought me to where I am today. So those can only be good things. So that's why we led with that.
Yeah. No, it's, myself, I've started a few businesses in my past as well, and they all failed. And so I totally understand where you're coming from. You put so much work in, and it is, you learn so much from it, that hopefully by the time you do it enough times, you finally hit one that works.
Right. And you know what, like when I've been going through this journey now for 5 years, I found some of the best, not advice, but it just really kind of supported me or made me feel better when I was struggling, to find out that some of the people that I really respected or looked up to also had business failures. So what is it to me if all I hear about is their amazing success they had and it was like a clear road and they never struggled? Well, that's actually a boring story. The more exciting story is when they tried this and they failed, then they tried that and it failed, then they tried this and they had some success and then it failed, and then they did, like, to me that is far more inspiring and I could get more out of it. So that's why we decided to lead with that little fact today.
Yeah, there's never been an overnight success. You see these people, they're an overnight success, but if you look at their real story, a lot of times they had to work just as hard as anybody else just to get it off the ground, right? You got the big guys of the world, Jeff Bezos, and you got Apple or Steve Jobs. I mean, he's passed away now, but Bill Gates, all those guys, those big business people, they're running the world from their companies. They all had to start somewhere, a lot of times in their garage or in the basement, right?
So. Right. And you know what, just like it is for most of us, there's nobody there to guide us and tell us what we should do and which decisions to make and which decisions are the most important. Like, you try to piece this all together. And I realize that the entrepreneur's journey is such a challenge for that reason, right? When I was in a job, my boss said to me, do this, do this, do this, do this. I knew what the boundaries were when I walked in, right? But when you're running your own business, you're having an entrepreneurial vision and you're trying to pursue it, that like nobody tells you. All the pieces, like you said, there's marketing, there's sales, then you have to actually follow through with whatever it is that you're selling, whether it's a product or a service. So there's all of that. How do you deal with scaling? How do you hire people? Like, there's so much to deal with. And for many of us, we come in either as solopreneurs, which is a real challenge, or we have co-founders. Well, co-founders are wonderful, but then you also have that relationship to navigate. And while you're still, figuring out all of those other pieces. So I understand now why you have to be a certain type of person to be able to want to pursue this. I actually think I'm a bit nuts that I've done this, but it's what I've always wanted. And it's now finally, after 5 years of trying to find my path, in the last year, things have come together and I now have the business that I've always wanted. Whereas before that, I was still kind of trying to figure it out. And I knew I was kind of on the right track, but that's why I ended up having those businesses either fail absolutely or closing them, because I just knew like I'm getting there, but I'm not right where I want to be. Finally, I'm in the right spot.
That seems like a fairly common journey. That like if I look at the past businesses I've started and failed, I mean, I don't know, Canada Revenue must be like, what's this guy doing? Because I got those different business names and stuff, opening and closing within a year or 2 years, and I always find that it's you have this vision of what it's going to be like, and then when you go through it and start doing everything, you're like, oh man, this is not working the way I thought, and if I continue on this path, I need to restart and try again with a different structure, right, or something. So,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but you don't learn it until you do it. So.
Right. And that's the whole point. You've got to get in there. Like I had my accountant, he called me and he's like, all right, Anita, like I've been watching you do this for a year now, and I'm very concerned about your financial situation. He's like, things don't look good here at all. And I kept saying to him, like, trust me, it's going to work. But then, when you have somebody who's an accountant who's very practical saying like, knock, 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 you better be looking here and seeing what's really going on. It kind of knocked me for a bit of a loop. And then I was like, oh, great. Like, I'm not doing well. And, like I knew I wasn't, but I still had that very optimistic spirit that it was going to turn around and just trust me. And it has, but the other thing is that it's taken a lot longer than I thought it would. And I heard this saying years ago, and I just kind of discounted it. It was so accurate. And that is, most entrepreneurs either run out of time or they run out of money.
Yeah, no, I can see that being
and I get it. Now I get it. But back then it was early on in the journey and the optimism was so high. I was so naive about, what it would actually take to do this. And my first business was actually a lead gen business. So what I was doing was building websites to rank them in, very competitive markets like carpet cleaning and tree services. And so I had to learn all about SEO and backlinking and all of that kind of stuff. And I was very successful, but I hated it. Oh my God, did I hate it? It was awful. So I realized sort of 6 months in, I was like, I hate this business. So I ended up selling it to somebody else and I got out. But in those early days, it was, the dream of millions. And in 6 months, I'm going to be pulling in 7 figures. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. Really doesn't.
Yeah, I think to get to that point, I think you need almost to be more than just a solopreneur. You need a team kind of behind you, right? You can make good money as a solopreneur, but to get that to the millions. You need a lot more resources to get there. I don't know. I try to think about for my own business, it's one-on-one with clients, and if I wanted to pull in the millions, I either have to convince them to pay me a lot more or have a lot more of them. And then I just run out of time, right? You run out of time. So,
right. Yeah. Or you could change your business model
where
now it's one-to-many versus one-to-one.
Yeah, I guess there's that way you can provide some type of service that is applicable to many people. You don't have to repeat it, right?
Right. Yeah. And so, when I got in, there were some really big name gurus, and I didn't understand how all of this worked. And I sadly, like many people, believed them, paid my $2,000 to get into their course, and only realized that all they were selling me was how they had done it, but times had already changed. So how they did it wasn't really replicable in the same way, because now it had been several years later. But they would always compress the length of time it took them to reach the 7-figure. And there's a few of them out there that they were gurus. They were doing amazing things. It was the Wild West with marketing, and they were trying all sorts of things because you could. the barrier to entry was almost non-existent. But as more and more people piled in, guess what? Ad costs rose. Like I got into Facebook ads. So after that lead gen business, which I just was so happy to sell, I got into I created a Facebook ad agency. So I got into Facebook ads 5 years ago, which was a not bad time to get in. Like people were starting to come in, but there was still a lot of room to be able to market and grow. And our cost per acquisition, cost per leads were still fairly low. And we ended up at that time, actually, Facebook video ads were just starting. So this is how long ago it was. So then there was so much excitement as people were trying to figure out like what you could do with video ads, and because nobody had seen this before, right? It was so new. And it was a really exciting time, but then it just got tiresome. And then your cost per acquisitions just kept going up and up and up as more people flooded into Facebook because it had been so lucrative before. And so by that point, I was like, you know what? Same thing. The agency was doing well. I was feeling good about it, but I had had enough with trying to constantly keep up with Facebook's algorithm changes. And so I ended up getting out of that business, and I shut that business down. But I'm not sure where I started on this whole journey here, that whole tangent I just went on. But anyway, it's taken far longer than I thought and cost a lot more money than I thought. I think that was the point. I think that's where I was going with all of this.
No, this is all great. It's your story is there to inspire others to say, you can do it, and there's obviously a path that you'll have to follow or make your own path, but you will get there. You just got to keep trying, right? So yeah, you've been sharing some great insights so far, and some great information. It's nice to talk to somebody who's really into the marketing and understands the digital side of it, right? And
I love it. I love it.
What's your why, right? You hear that? What's your why? Why did you decide to?
Yeah, I actually have it on my wall. So please forgive me as I stop looking at the camera. I'll look up here, and it's to foster genuine connections between people and businesses so they feel empowered and respected. That is my why. I did, the whole Simon Sinek find your why. 2 Christmases ago, I think I sat down, and that was my Christmas activity, was to go through and really find my why, because I didn't know. And so with the businesses I built, I got into that whole guru thing, right? Where the very first one was all around lead generation, where I was, like I said, I was building these websites, ranking them in Google. And then the goal was to rank higher than the number 1 spot. And then what you would do is sell those leads to whoever was on, the bottom of page 1 or on page 2 to help them compete. And usually they were pretty grateful that you could funnel extra business their way, because they weren't ranking on page 1 or weren't ranking in the top. So when I got involved with that, again, I was so naive about how this online business worked. And I've got to say this. So my history is, I worked as a qualitative researcher at McMaster University here in Canada for 14 years in a research institute. So I have a master's degree. I'm not a stupid person. Started a PhD and then was like, oh God, do I really want to do 5 years? No, I didn't. So I dropped out of my PhD. And so, I've got some brains in my head. But when I came into this online world and starting businesses, it's like somehow I just took all of that and I checked it to the side, and I just got sucked into the marketing of, and the dream. Like these marketers or gurus, they were fantastic at hitting my pain point. I'm starting this business. I don't know where to go. What's your dream? Oh, we all want to be millionaires. We all want to be rich, living the millionaire lifestyle. And I just got caught in the emotions. Like these guys know what they're doing. A lot of them are excellent copywriters. They're really good at persuasion. And I just came in and I was like, this is great. This is what I want to do. And so I bought that first course. That was hefty, that lead gen one. That was over $7,000 I paid for that. And that was like I'm Canadian, so that was in US dollars. And if you know
Yeah.
anything about our conversion rates, it was more like 10 grand Canadian by the time I was done. And then I got into another guru's course, and then I got into another one because now I got to learn about not just how to be a consultant, but I got to learn how to sell online. Then I got to learn the marketing. Then I got to learn Facebook ads. Then I got to learn, and my why became, I got caught in this cycle of just going from one $2,000 product to another $2,000 to this. And it was one day when one of these big gurus, and I was in a webinar of his, and he was saying that if you bought now and he's been around since like 2005, 2006. He's, a really big name, although he's kind of dwindling now. But if you bought then at the end of the webinar, what would happen is you would be part of this special group where once a month you could get on a live call with him and he would answer your questions. So I wasn't so thrilled about his course, but I thought, you know what, that to me has real value. So really what I'm paying for is access to this guy, and maybe I can have a question answered because he's, multimillionaire and this amazing marketing guru. So I bought the course and I got into it, and the material was good and I learned some stuff. But then when I went on my very first call, it wasn't with him. And I was like, well, who are you? Oh, well, I'm trained under so-and-so. And I'm like, well, where is this guru? And they're like, oh, well, he doesn't come on these calls. And I'm like, I listened to a webinar and that's exactly what they promised. And they're like, oh, you got into that evergreen funnel, apparently. And, oh, we don't offer it for that. And I was like, I clearly heard it. That's why I decided to buy. So of course I'm reaching out to customer support and I'm like, this is what was promised. And then they said the same thing. Oh, you were part of the evergreen funnel. That wasn't supposed to be part of that. So I had a choice to either refund, which now I've already half consumed the material and I wanted to consume the other half, or I can just, keep going and not attend any of those calls, which is what I decided to do. And that ticked me off so much because by this point I was starting to realize that what these guys do is promote each other's products. So you get caught in this crazy loop like I was, just buying product after product after product, and you're not really executing. You're not really growing your business. In fact, what they do is by selling you into more stuff, you're constantly learning.
They're overwhelming you, right? And so you feel like you need some more. That's all.
Right. And now I'm missing this. And now I'm missing this. And so that had happened. And then right before then, there was someone else who, same thing, part of this guru circuit. And this really upset me the most. And this is my why. This is where it came from. So same thing, $2,000. At the time, I think they were all $2,000 courses. And we got in, and this guy's so nice and very slick, eh? He had paid somebody big money to do the course videos, and wow, it was spot on. Have these live calls, and sometimes he'd get nasty on them. Wait a minute here. This is not the same guy that I see in the videos and on all the interviews. So I tucked it away in my mind. And when I signed up for his course, if you acted super fast, like he had this special thing that if you were like one of the first 10 people to buy, you had special access to something, whatever. I don't know what it was now. And my greed caught me. And I was like, oh my God, I want that. So his launch, it was like a Tuesday morning or Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm ready. We're all there ready, right? And of course the launch failed, and then we had to wait. And then finally I got online and they had this offer. And the offer was that they have a live conference at the end of the year. And you could buy your ticket now at a discounted price. I think it was an extra $500 US or something, or maybe it's $500 US and you could get it for like $250 US or something. This is just to reserve your seat at the event. And I'm like, okay, well, I might as well take it. I'm trying to, get through to win whatever the first 10 people got. I think it was an hour consultation with this guru. So I'm going through and I'm, trying to type my credit card number in really fast and all of that. And I got in. Of course, I wasn't one of those 10 people. So I was like, oh, whatever. And we're in these calls. I'm starting to see another side of him. And then I realized, you know what? I'm not going to be able to go to this event in November. So this was May. The event was being held in November. So I reached out to their customer support and I said, hey, listen, can I sell my ticket to somebody or can I get a refund on it? And the customer support came back and said, like, no, you can't we can't refund your ticket. And I'm like, okay, can I sell it then? And then the guru got involved, private messaged me on Facebook and said, no, not only can you not transfer it, you can't sell it, you can't get a refund for it, nothing. And I was just like, you greedy, you can fill in your own words. 5 months before the event, don't tell me that there aren't, I have ran. So when I worked at the university, I was an event coordinator for, hundreds of people, conferences over multiple days. I know how these run. I know when you've got to have your final numbers in for catering, all of that. 30 days for sure. But we're talking, I'm 5 months out and this greedy, he wouldn't even, $250, $250. He wouldn't even let me sell it, transfer it, or get refunded. And that was it. So you take my first experience with this evergreen webinar funnel I was in that I wasn't supposed to get what it was being promised.
Yeah.
Plus this guy just like a month before. And that was it. I was done. And I'm like, I'm tired of being in this shallow world where there's all these promises of riches. There's all these promises. But when you pull back the surface a little bit and look at it, it's not genuine at all. And that's when I was like, I'm done with all of this. So it wasn't long after that, actually, I closed my Facebook ad agency and I closed my digital marketing agency that I had for a little bit after the Facebook. I was trying to figure out what to do. And I opened this consultancy today to genuinely help businesses retain the customers they have versus, kind of scamming people, which is what I felt had happened to me. It was.
I know what you're saying. You're just like, you get on one and then they're promoting you into another. And next thing you know, you're back at the same guy, I think as marketers, we, after you've been seeing this stuff for a while, you kind of get a little bit blinded to it, once especially if you're studying copy, because like copywriters, they like to study swipes, right? To go and study what the other guys are doing.
You got
so
it.
You got to be a little strong sometimes.
Right. You got it.
Yeah, this is some great conversation here. A lot of great stuff. So many business leaders don't often consider themselves marketers, but I think we can all agree that in order to succeed at business, you need sales. And whether a business owner realizes it or not, they are doing something to market themselves and make those sales happen. So, you're in the marketing industry, right? So you do consider yourself a marketer. Churn consultant, chief churn consultant, right? That's right.
Chief churn crusher.
Oh, sorry,
so
chief churn crusher.
I'm not. I got to clarify this, Cuyler. I am no longer a marketer.
Oh, you left it.
Yeah, I left it when all of this stuff happened and I started to see, this isn't for me. I flipped on the other side, which is now retention. So keeping those customers longer, which is like a vastly different world from marketing. Marketing is the dating. It's the fun. It's the tactical. It's, you're out there trying new stuff all the time to see what works and what doesn't. What I do is now the marriage. Okay.
Maintaining the marriage, right?
It's the long haul. A plus B does not equal C. Whereas in lead gen, A plus B equals C. So this is now where I am. And in many ways, I love it. It's a better fit for me. But wow, it's a totally different world.
But you seem like a very upbeat and positive person. And I think that personality is probably going to go very well into maintaining longer relationships with people, right?
Right.
So, no, I think you seems like you found yourself a good niche, I guess, or a good
Fit.
profession, good
Yeah,
fit, good
or a
profession.
good fit. I'm really
Yeah.
passionate about it. And like, I loved, like, I gotta say, like, there's a thrill with marketing. There really is when you're in there and you're trying this and you're trying that, you want to see what works and what doesn't work. And
What do you do today to market yourself,
yeah,
right? So you're not really no longer marketing other businesses, but
right.
for yourself. How do
It's
you
just my
do
own.
that?
Hmm. So one of the things is, and I learned this early on. So this business that I have now just turned a year old. Okay, so it's still fairly new. Took me a while to figure out, learn about the industry, the SaaS world, the churn world, all of that kind of stuff. Who are the key players? So when I was first starting out, and anybody who is ads, advertising, paid advertising is fuel to a fire that is already there. And
Mm.
it's one of the frustrating things I learned with all these gurus is they would have you, somebody who has like essentially you don't even have a business. You're sort of like, oh, I think I'll be a consultant. I think I'll maybe open an agency. Like you're still figuring it out. And here they want you to be running Facebook ads because that's what they did. Because when they started, like nobody was on Facebook. So it was cheap, cheap, cheap. Not anymore.
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the most frustrating things is that paid advertising works when you already have a fire burning, meaning your business is already there. You've got proof of concept, you got clients or customers, then you put the ads on and then like that builds the fire. But you can't use the ads to make the fire as these gurus have. And that's what I learned. They tried to teach me how to make a fire out of using ads instead of realizing the fire needed to be there first. The ads just really build on what you have.
Mm.
So I had to take that learning with this new business and decide how am I going to market. So the biggest thing that I decided to do is go against all of that and say I'm not marketing that way. I'm marketing via partnerships. So totally different play altogether. I looked at who were the big people in the market who had my audience. Now, if anybody is familiar with where is it? Ugh. One sec, bear with me. You can see all of my notes, right? Russell Brunson, his Traffic Secrets book. Can you see it? I can't see
Yeah.
you on the camera.
Yeah. No, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, I do have some issues with some of the stuff Russell does. I'll just say that. However, on the whole, I have to say I really like his attempt at getting you to try things that are, and especially with Traffic Secrets, he tried to do this. Try to do things that 10 years from now will still work. So it's
Mm.
not just tactics based. And one of the things that Russell talks about and that I was already doing is building key relationships and looking at who has my market. So I work with B2B SaaS companies. If you don't know what SaaS is, it's software as a service. Your Dropbox, Airtable, Slack, Asana, I don't know, whatever other thing you're using where it's business to business and you pay a monthly subscription. Those are the types of businesses I work with. So I needed to see who has my market or my potential customers. And that's what I did is I started developing relationships. Now I write, when I worked at the university, I wrote a whole bunch. I think I've got 27 publications or something in academic journals. But I took this and now I'm writing for their blogs, which is great because it does two things. One is it exposes me and my thinking to their audience. And the second thing is it raised my authority very quickly.
Mm.
So I could say, hey, you can find me on so-and-so's blog. And it was very specific. So the two companies right now that I'm writing for are big names in churn software. Well, if as a churn consultant, kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is how I've chosen to do it, which is it takes a little more work because you're developing a relationship over a period of time, But for me, wow, has it opened doors? Because by saying that, now there's a big fingers crossed. They agreed that I'm supposed to be writing this customer experience guide for them, but they have over 150,000 visitors to their site every month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so now I'm stepping up, but I used those smaller companies directly in my industry to now leverage to the next level. So I just reached out to them today and said, like, okay, hey guys, you want me to start writing this? So that's what I've chosen to do. So my primary channel is partnerships, and then my second is outbound sales. So good old cold emailing. And I can't believe I'm back at this, but I am. And in some ways it's more challenging because they don't know who you are. You're trying to get a conversation going from nothing. But I learned even now with cold emailing that the more personal you can make it, and I don't mean just putting their name in there as a personalization feature. I'm talking about doing a little bit of homework, and instead of mass mailing 10,000 people, pick 50 and then really, look and see what have they just released. Do they have a new announcement or something really personal for them? And here's the key, Cuyler, that man, it opens doors so fast. Compliment them first. Compliment them first. Your very first, so whether it's on LinkedIn, and I'm heavily connecting with people on LinkedIn in my industry, I always compliment them. So just saw you on so-and-so's webinar. It was so great. I took a lot of notes. Would love to connect. That's all I write. And I like my open rates, my connection rates. Like I just got connected. This company is in the Fortune 50. Okay.
Oh, wow.
With their VP of global customer success. He and I just connected yesterday.
Oh, wow. That's
I know.
exciting.
It's crazy. So this is how I'm marketing. I'm staying away from what I learned as a digital marketer, which is just run ads and duke it out with everybody else. And I'm like, I'm taking this route, but I'm being much more choosy in who I reach out to and how I reach out. So I had done this stuff in the past, like even with LinkedIn, where you get that automated software where it will do all the connection requests for you, and no more. So one of the things I do is I go on, there's a particular guy I'm following who's in my industry. He's really big. And then whenever people comment on his post and they're a second degree connection with me, I always reach out to every single one of them. So it might be 25 people. And I say, loved your comment on so-and-so's post, would love to connect. Boom. So now just in the last, I've been really doing this week. I think I've added 45 new connections. And and then now these really big names, because he's been in the industry a long time. They all know each other. They see I'm already connected with a bunch of people that are right. So it becomes this great thing that the more I reach out to them, the higher up my authority becomes, because now I'm connected with more of them that they already know. You get it, right?
Snowball, almost straight snowball effect. Yeah.
But it's different than just putting an ad out there and throwing it and fingers crossed, which is what the marketing I'd always done. So this takes more effort. It's more strategic, but the payoff is way better because now we're connected. That means I can reach out to them much more easily and start a discussion. And that's what I'm doing. So whether I'm reaching out in cold email or through LinkedIn, just by connecting with them, these are now my channels to start those discussions and build that relationship. And then maybe I can move it to questions about how they're dealing with customer retention or customer churn. And just let you know, churn is when a customer leaves a business. A customer is churned when they no longer have anything to do with the business. And the flip side is you retain them, you keep them longer. So churn and retention are opposite sides of the same coin. And so then I can start, maybe just casually asking them about where they're at and how COVID affected them and what they're struggling with. And maybe through that, get them on a call. And so that's how I'm marketing my business, vastly differently than the other businesses I had in the past.
Yeah, it seems to be like it's working out really well for you. And kind of when I've been learning a lot of different marketing strategies, right? So a lot of different I guess you got the way you're talking about the Facebook ads and just throwing messages out there, and then there's the cold pitch and connecting on LinkedIn. But I think depending on what you're trying to sell and to who, different marketing strategies may work better than others, right?
Yep.
So business to business, a solopreneur who wants to work with another business, or even a small agency that wants to work with another business. I think your approach is, and that's kind of how I'm going at it as well, trying to build individual connections, is the best way to go, right? Because usually you're going to have a bit of a higher price point anyways. They're going to want to talk to you. Facebook ads, I think that's better to get people maybe to just start to interact with your company, and maybe eventually become a lead and then go into a funnel for maybe a cheaper product, right?
Right.
You see all sorts of e-commerce stuff on there, maybe a cheap SaaS intro offer, right? That's how I've found some of the ones I used. So a lot of it is what's the end goal? How expensive is this going to be? Because people aren't going to be taking up a $3,000 product, $4,000 product through a Facebook ad. They're going to have to get a lot of touch points on the way up there,
right.
and personal interaction is going to be what makes that happen, right? So,
yeah, you've got it exactly. And so this method allows for me to do that. Like, I can't take on 25 clients a month. I only need, 1 to 3 depending on the month. So to run Facebook ads and again, the people who are taking those offers might not be the ones that actually become clients. Like they're vastly different in how they think, in what their goals are. So that's the other piece of this is I've really got to decide what's the trade-off. So what I'm doing is to sort of get a little more authority again, is I'm running Facebook ads to my articles just to get SaaS founders or other people involved in SaaS knowing who the heck I am. But I'm not putting them in any funnels. I just want them to find my stuff and go, oh yeah, there was this person who does this churn stuff, and make that association.
Just start to know you.
Yeah, that's all it is. So there's no funnel. And I know. So people listening to this, I mean, you might be like, are you nuts, girl? I do not take emails. I do not. Everything, you can go to my site. It's all free download, instant. You view it right away and you can direct download it yourself. I'm just giving it all because right now I feel like the business is too small, too early to really be building out with these complex funnels. I've made that mistake before and it didn't work. So right now I'm just giving it away, and eventually I can build those in when the business is big enough and I have more support.
I think that's one of those, it'll be so easy to do until you go do it, right?
I build out these really complex funnels and, X number of emails. Like I had an active campaign. You should have seen, like I was proud, but it would take me like a couple weeks to build out this entire huge funnel. And then like 3 people would go through it.
Yeah, I think for myself, I do have like an email capture on my site, but I don't have this giant funnel attached to it. It essentially goes to a video to give them some information. Right. And once the second part of the video, second video is ready, I'll send that to them. But it's not this giant 6 months later, you're still getting emails from me. It's going to be when I have something good to share with you, I will share it with you.
Right. Right. So anyway, that's kind of like, that's what I'm doing now. And it really suits me. So I have an opportunity. I was working with somebody and he kind of got into this more automated outreach. So again, a particular piece of software that what it does is it collects all the email addresses and then it'll cold email through the system. But I had to set up a brand new email domain, or a brand new domain just for emailing so that, mine wouldn't get slapped down by the system. And I started using it and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be doing this anymore. The spray and pray, throw it all out there and like pray that maybe somebody actually wants to speak with me. And, so I got rid of it and I'm now waiting for a new piece of software. I'm going to be in the beta for it. What it does is it leverages AI so that it social listens for you. So currently what I'm doing is going on LinkedIn, seeing what they're posting, commenting again is a way to reach out. What it helps you do is find people who are more in market for what you sell.
Yeah.
Whereas the spray and pray, you have no idea. Are they looking? Is this even a problem for them? For some companies, churn is not a problem. Like they've got the product and product market fit is so good and there's such stickiness to the product. Like think Zoom. Zoom isn't having huge problems right now. There's other products on the market that are coming up, but
so who is your target market and how do you focus in on them? I mean, I know you target SaaS, but maybe there's a specific type that you like to focus
So
on.
I actually don't go by industry. I don't go by SaaS type, but I go by people. So there's, if you go on my website, you'll actually see there's two groups of people that I work with. One is the founder and chief revenue officer. So I lump them in together. And the second is customer success leaders. So these are people who are running customer success teams. They might be called chief customer officer, VP customer success, head of customer success, director of customer success. Holy, like they have so many different titles. So the industry term is customer success leader because you never know. And I'm sure like in 6 months, they'll come up with a new title that, is the latest in terms of that. So
I've seen all sorts of different untraditional titles like chief happiness officer and stuff like that.
I know. And it's, like I get that it's great, but as a marketer, like it's really hard then on figuring out how to focus on them. And yeah. So anyway, I have these two groups. Now with the founders and chief revenue officers, I have to market them or approach them very differently because they don't congregate together. Right? There's no real SaaS founders. Like, yeah, there are conferences and stuff like that where a lot of these people go, but now we're not having those conferences in the same way and that they're just online and you can't network. So that's out. So for those guys, that's where the cold emailing has really come in handy. And that's the approach I'm taking with them. With the customer success leaders, fortunately, they do congregate. And there's a new community just started a couple of months ago that's got like some really key players in it. And I'm in there every day talking with different people. Actually, last week, I was so active in the group, and I didn't know this. They have a top 10 people who are most active in the group. And there I am, barely hanging on to the bottom position. So proud of myself. But they're getting to know me in there. And I'm not technically supposed to be there because I'm not in customer success. I support customer success. But so that's what I've chosen to do there. And again, I'll go back to Russell Brunson's book. That's another thing he suggests. Get in those communities and start participating. Like you're not selling your business. You're just helping with solutions to questions they might have. And so that's how I'm doing it. So some key partnerships where I'm really reaching out to people and trying to develop those relationships. And then the second way is by participating in these groups and emailing out, cold emailing the other group, which is the founders and chief revenue officers.
Awesome. So yeah, right. You know exactly who you want to talk to. You just got to figure out the name first.
Right. So that's why that customer success leader. But the great thing is when you're in this community, it doesn't really matter what they're called because they're all congregated together, which is awesome. Yeah. And then because I write, it's been great because then when we're having a conversation about a particular topic, I just had this. So I interviewed 2 people. Oh, wow. They were fantastic. Well, now they're providing me the data I need to put in the articles about, what people in customer success are actually doing. And so I'm not doing it, but I interview them. They tell me, put it in the article, and it just like makes A, I've developed a great relationship, and B, now it makes my article that much better.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's kind of with this podcast that I did, it's a new podcast, but I am using it as a relationship building tool for myself, right? To get out there and get to know people in the industry. And I don't know, have you ever heard of that book by James Carberry, Content-Based Networking?
No,
Oh, you
I
should read
haven't.
it. That's because what you're doing there with the articles and interviewing people and writing articles, that's exactly what he talks about. He talks about podcasting, collaborating with people you want to get to know better, right?
That's it.
Yeah, and it's it's a great book. I had heard about it on Dennis Brown's. I don't know if you know Dennis Brown.
No.
He has another podcast. Growth Experts. I'm just looking at Spotify on the side here. Growth Experts podcast, and he had James Carberry on there, and they were talking the book, and I just had to buy it right away. And it was a bit, one of those little bit of a life-changing books. Really, wow, that's just. I think people are doing it anyways, but just to have somebody come out and kind of explain it to you
and the step-by-step, and please don't make it seem like I'm pushing Russell's book, but that's what he said he did, was with the podcast. And then when you slowly start moving up and saying, hey, I had this guest and I had this guest. And then that person over there who might be a little higher goes, okay, well then if they did it, then maybe I could. And then you keep leveraging up. Right. So I'm doing it with writing. That's my thing. And that's where I'm staying. Like, do I love to talk? I enjoy video? Absolutely. But I have zero interest in developing my YouTube channel. I really prefer to write and then do stuff like this. And so once you find that thing, like that one channel you love, and again, Russell says it, stick with it until you get really good at it. You've built a big enough base, and then you start multi-channel. And so you have a question here that says, asking me what have I learned about marketing my products or services since entering the business. And I want to say this: don't listen to Gary V or Gary Vaynerchuk. That is my advice. Don't listen to the guy. And this is the reason why. Gary is in the media business. It is his business to sell media. So he better be in every freaking channel out there to prove he knows what he's doing. Because in the SaaS world, we call it dog fooding, where you eat essentially your own product. It's the same here. Gary is a media guy. He better know about all forms of media and how to really leverage them well, because that's what he sells to other companies. Well, I hate that advice, and it really makes me angry because so many of these entrepreneurs listen to him and go, oh, well, I need to be on TikTok now, and and wherever else I need to be, and I got caught in that in the beginning, and so much time and energy wasted. And no, it didn't pay off for me. Why? Because I wasn't big enough. I didn't have a team. Like, look at Gary's team behind him. God, he has several somebodies just follow him around and film him. They're doing the editing. They're doing the chopping up. They're deciding what pieces should go on which platforms. As a solopreneur, if you have a small team, you can't be doing all of that. So far better to focus on one thing and get really freaking good at it. Build a whole bunch of momentum and then move. So that's my one piece of advice. Do not listen to Gary's suggestion of one piece of content in 30 different places, or I don't know, something like that. Don't do it.
I totally agree with you there. I mean, I think for anybody who's going to, market themselves, their business or service, you need to figure out first, where are the people you want hanging out, right? And that's where you go, and if you're in B2B, like myself, like yourself, LinkedIn's a great place to be for that, right?
It
So
is.
it's the best place to be, honestly, for
Yep.
B2B. And then Facebook, I'm on Facebook. I made a few Facebook, my personal account, obviously, and a page there, but I don't spend as much time on Facebook as I do LinkedIn.
No, me neither. Me neither. And there are some SaaS groups I'm involved with on Facebook. But again, somebody else owns those and I can
mm,
be banned very quickly.
mm,
And I also found it's not really the type of people that I want to be around. So when I found this customer success community or customer success leaders community, it's like I've only been in there like 6 weeks or something, and I feel like I've come home. It
mm,
is natural. I'm relaxed. I feel like I can give my opinion, even though I don't necessarily work in customer success. It's like night and day. And so I agree. Find those places where they congregate, and it makes your world so much easier in terms of developing relationships. You want to call it prospecting, whatever it is. It really makes a huge difference.
mm. That's awesome. That's great. I guess we've kind of talked about what frustrates you. We got really good into that, I guess. But is there anything that you want to add to that? What frustrates you today in regards to
Um,
any business?
Yeah, sure. I think the thing that frustrates me now, like I figured out what I'm doing. I'm very clear on who I serve, how I serve them, the results I get, like all of that is settled. So the frustrating thing right now is that it's still a very lonely journey. And it's more lonely in many ways than when I was starting out and I was in all those gurus groups, because we were all together going, I don't know what this is. And there was a sense of, community as you were trying to learn and have you tried this? And I'm trying that. And there was an excitement there. Well, I don't have that anymore. And I think that that's the most frustrating part, is that I've chosen not to go the traditional route. I'm building partnerships and relationships, and it's much more lonely. There aren't as many people doing it. It's I don't know if it's harder work, it's just different.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is probably the most frustrating thing, is that I've chosen to zig when everybody's zagging, but man, it's lonely over here in the zig. And sometimes I look over at the zag and I go, God, I wish I could just go back in some ways. Really deep down, I don't, but sometimes it just feels like it's lonely. Sometimes it can be lonely. There, I'll just say it again. Sometimes it
Yeah.
can be lonely.
I guess that's the benefit of a workplace,
Right.
I think I've mentioned this a couple of other episodes there. My day job, I'm a mechanic, right? So I'm still got the day job trying to build up my copywriting business to eventually move out of that, right? But
Right.
I got great relationships at the day job as a mechanic. I'm not particularly a big fan of the work. I do it. It pays for the family to keep a roof over their head. But I work with great people, and I think even if one day I do get to leave that, I'm going to miss the people I worked with,
Yeah.
and it might get a little lonely without them. But
Yeah. The other thing is the loneliness comes with that it's hard to find people to bounce ideas off of. It's hard to find. So like when I was taking those courses, we were all kind of in the same boat around that particular topic. We didn't know, we were all early in the journey. But once the journey progresses a little more, you realize there's a whole bunch of people you connected with that you just don't have either anything in common with anymore, or they're gone down a different path than you. And it gets kind of harder to find those people that can really help support you. So I do have them, but same thing. They're all over the world. We meet like this on Zoom. I've never met them in person. It's very different. And I think that that's the part that needs to be balanced out, is I still have to build relationships with people who are right here that I can touch. And that it can't just always be virtual. Virtual is great, but it's not the same as actually having somebody that you can hug when you're going through a tough time, because there are some real tough times, right? There are times where you look at this and you go, why am I doing this? Again, zigging and everyone's zagging, and you're kind of looking over and going, shit, it would be so nice to be able to just be part of that bigger community versus standing out here on my own. But I know this standing out here on my own is really true to who I am. and what my vision is. So I know that I've put myself here and the loneliness comes as part of that. So what can I do now? Building those online relationships is great. That's one way. But building other relationships in person is, I think, equally as important.
Yeah, we got to stay connected for real.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right, right.
not
You got
through
it.
a fiber optic cable. Yeah, no, that's smart. That's important, right? People need to have that community.
Yeah, they really do. They really do.
So we're going to be wrapping up the show here soon. I just got a few more questions to ask. This is a very inspiring and eye-opening conversation we've been having here. So thank you so much for coming on the
Good,
show.
good.
So I got a fun question here. Every entrepreneur has a dream of what their future is going to look like after they started their business. You know, what's going to be like in 5 years or 10 years. So I guess, what was your vision of the future and how is it today? Is it different, the same?
Oh man. Well, my vision when I first started listening to those gurus was I was going to be a multimillionaire by now,
Yeah.
right? Because it was so easy peasy. Just do what they did and follow their path and look, yeah, I can be wealthy like them. As I've learned, they leave out very key details and a whole bunch of other things that they're doing that aren't in their courses.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the initial thing. It was really, there was a big element of just buying into that vision. The really important thing for me now is talking about customer experience. So customers leave, they churn because it's usually not the product. You can put up with kind of a glitchy product if it's really helpful to you and you know, it's really providing value. But if you're reaching out to support and your customer support experience is terrible, maybe they take 5 days to get back to you, or they're, you know, like I had with one company, I reached out to customer support and I said, how do I cancel or delete my account? Bless this guy. He was either brand new in the job or just, I don't know what he was trying to do, get his support ticket, you know, the time spent on support tickets down. He emails me back. This was just 2 weeks ago. He emails me back and goes, I deleted your account for you.
I think I saw that. I think I saw that post on LinkedIn.
It was on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I was just like, are you for real? I was just asking how. I didn't capture any of my data. I did oh my God. So the bigger thing is around customer experience, and particularly in the world I'm in with software as a service. There's like so many SaaS companies coming up. Like in 2011, just in the marketing tech space. So this is your emailing. These are your autoresponders and all the different types. There were 150 companies in 2011. In 2019, in the same MarTech space, marketing technology space, over 7,000.
Wow, that's some strong growth there.
That is crazy. So in 8 years, they went from 150 to over 7,000. So the bigger challenge is that products and features are not enough to differentiate anymore. And it's going to be around customer experience. So this is my big thing. This is the thing I'm planting my flag and saying it is going to be the most important differentiator going forward is customer experience. So we talked about Simon Sinek at the beginning, and he's really big with his leadership concepts. I want to do the same thing he's doing, but do it around customer experience and saying that it's time. Customers are tired of being locked into plans, feeling like we don't have a choice, having to put up with crappy products and crappy service because guess what? There's no other option. Well, the world's changing and the world's changing fast, folks. And if you want to be in business in 5 years, you better start focusing on shifting your business to be much more customer centric. So that is my sort of battle cry, if you will. That's what I want to be known for. There are some people doing customer experience stuff who've been doing it for a few years, but they're coming from a different place than I am. And so this is where I think of Simon, and I think I share that equal passion as he does. I want to really make a big difference, and I think we can, and that ties in with my why. Respect and empower. Well, if you're respecting, empowering your customers, guess what? They're willing to put up with the odd mess up. They're willing to put up with, a product that went down for an hour when it needs to be live 24 hours. You're willing to put up with stuff if you feel respected, you feel empowered, and you feel valued as a customer. So if you can put those in, customers will stay, regardless of the little hiccups that go along the way.
Yeah, it seems like you have a very unique differentiator of yourself and how you can help
Right.
other people. So that's that's very empowering to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But I just got to say, like, for as passionate as I am, remember, this is 5 years in the making. This didn't happen overnight. This didn't just, I've worked really hard to figure out, well, what is it that I really like? Where is my thing that I want to capture my little space and say, this is it? And if, I like that idea of having a little hill and you put your little circle around it and you plant a flag and say, if you want to join me, this is the space I'm in. And if you believe what I believe, come join me here on this space. And if you don't, that's okay, because there's other people with their flags planted on their hills, and you can go over to them. But this is the one that I've decided, and I'm very passionate about it because I see it. You can't go from 150 to over 7,000 in 8 years and not think that customer experience is going to really be the key differentiator, because it is.
They're going to pick the company that cares the most about them, right?
Right. And we've all had our personal experiences with it. So I'm not saying anything new. We've all had companies where you're like, you know what? Hell, I will never go back to them. They treated me poorly. And then there are other companies, like I deal with startups. I'm in beta all the time, right? With new products. And I'm willing to put up with it if I feel respected. I feel like they really care about who I am and what I'm trying to achieve.
So I guess you said you had some advice you wanted to share for the audience, and you wanted to wait till I got here at this part of the show. So this is where we're at. The advice you wanted to share.
So I think the advice was, if I'm looking back, the first is don't listen to Gary Vee. That's my first piece of advice, with respect to the whole be omnipresent. Unless you have a media business like him, don't follow that. The second is to listen to your heart. Find out what you really want and then go for it. Even if it seems like it's going exactly against everything you've been hearing and the gurus are telling you to do, if it's really true in your heart and this feels like the right direction for you, go for it. Bear in mind, it might be lonely. It's going to be tough, but it is ultimately better than selling out your soul and doing something that you really don't want to do, and it doesn't make your heart sing. I think that's the biggest thing. We talk about finding your passion, and it's tough. Humans learn what they want by bumping into all the things they don't want first.
I like that.
So if you want to figure out what you want and what you're passionate about, then get out there and start trying a whole bunch of different stuff. Don't look at it as failure. You look at it instead as learning. Okay, I'm learning. I don't like that. I'm learning that I kind of like this. Wow, this over here? Yeah, this is kind of interesting. Maybe I can do something with this. So the more you try, the more feedback you get, the more you can start really dialing in and saying, yeah, you know what? This is my little portion on this hill right here. This is mine. And so that's a piece of advice that I want to give. And for me, it took, failing, closing, selling, those businesses before this particular one. But I have zero regrets in doing it for that reason, because it's brought me to where I am today. I learned what I didn't want, and through that, it helped me find what I do. So that is my biggest piece of advice. Get into groups, start networking, start meeting people, asking questions, developing those relationships. And that's really what's going to help you figure that out much, much faster.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great advice. True from the heart advice, I can tell. If people want to reach out to you and take advantage of your services or what you have to offer, how can they do that?
So AnitaToth.ca, don't go .com. That's an organics company. AnitaToth.ca. I embrace my Canadianism. And then same thing on LinkedIn. I have a bright orange shirt. It's kind of like my marketing thing now. I realized I just stuck that shirt on and it looked really good in all the photos I had done. So now I just stick with that theme because it's really, it stands out. It's really easy to pick me out. So you can find me in those places. And like I said, so you might think like B2B SaaS, I'm into marketing, I don't know what to do. On my site, there's a menu that says how I can help you. If you click on that, there's actually a section called Foundational Guides. And in those foundational guides, I have the Ultimate Guide to Customer Feedback, but then also a comprehensive list of customer feedback questions you can ask. And you might be like, well, I don't know, I don't need customer feedback. I work with clients, I understand what they need. Well, these are specific questions that you can ask because what you're going to do is take that and reflect it back in your marketing and in your sales process to get those ideal customer profiles that you're looking to build so that your CAC or your customer acquisition cost when you are marketing and having those paid ads is cheaper. And the other thing is with sales, if you can really understand what their pain points are and what they're looking to achieve, it's far easier to sell than when you're kind of guessing. So those resources are there. You can check it out. There's also a few other guides might be of interest to you to learn about customer retention or reducing churn. So those are there, and I just encourage people to have a look. Like I said, you can view immediately. You don't have to give me your email. I believe a little slider comes out on my homepage, and I am just starting I call it the Churn Crusher. It's not a newsletter. I call it a thought letter, but if you want to, you can get on that, and sometime in the future, you'll get something from me about that. Haven't really figured out that part of my marketing yet, but eventually we'll get there. But go ahead and have a look at all the free stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'll check out that customer feedback. That sounds helpful.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is. And understanding why you need different types of customer feedback. You need shallow ones like surveys, but you also need really deep ones like focus groups and interviews, and how to do those. It's not just asking a bunch of questions. You got to know the right questions to ask in the right order, and then what to do with it afterward. Yeah. That's the biggest key. Never mind that you've collected this data. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to decide what's important and what's not?
Yeah, it's organizing it into something legible, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, legible, and the bigger thing is so that you could actually make a strategic decision on it.
Yeah.
That's really what the key point is, right? You're going to get a lot of information back, and half of it you're going to be like, okay, that was good, but it's not really what I need. This little slice right here is what I need. And now I know I can make this type of decision because I feel confident that that is accurate information I've received.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, well, guys, that's the show today. And I'd like to thank Anita Toth for coming on the show and sharing your experience with us. It was great having you on. You have real passion for your industry and for your profession and your heel, right? You're planting your flag. I love that analogy. And yeah, so thanks for coming on the show. To my listeners, please help me spread the word and leave a review on whatever podcast or video platform you're listening to the Actual Marketing Show on. It is appreciated, and we'll get this valuable content out to those who need it most. And remember to subscribe to the show's channel and click the little bell if you're on YouTube. Awesome. You guys are great. Thanks for listening to the Actual Marketing Show. Cheers until next time.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks again for watching this episode of the Actual Marketing Show. If you want to connect with me, check me out on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Cuyler Calahan. If you want to check me out on Facebook, visit my Facebook page at fb.me/KuylerWrites, or Facebook message me at m.me/KuylerWrites. I'd like to thank SRO for the track Neon Tokyo for the intro and outro music. Check out SRO in the show notes. Hope to see you on the next episode. Bye.